And moving over to weather.
Sony predicts no clouds anytime soon here at 7 p.m. in the Triangle Squared News Network.
Hello.
Welcome to TSN, Triangle Squared News Network, TSNN.
TSNN. This is why when we do those cold openings and Saul just rambles on, I actually think I liked it more, Saul. You know what? Well, that may not have been what we incredibly planned.
No, but I was like, it'd be kind of funny for like a news anchor saying in there or something.
And you know, this ties all the way back to early episodes when I said, like, the first test episode we did where I was like, Saul, you sound like you're speaking on a news network.
There you go.
Now you have found your calling. You will be.
I found my news network.
You will be why can I not remember? The meteorologist.
Yeah.
You'll be the head meteorologist for the TSNN.
My name even works for PSN. Meteorologist, MeteoricDemise.
There you go. So you figured you have finally found your calling.
That's my rap name.
Really?
Really.
Meteorologist, MeteoricDemise?
Yeah, it's a big old rap name. Brett, tell them who we are, though, and tell them why this episode's going to be weird.
All right. Yeah. If this is your first time joining us, we are Triangle Squared, a PlayStation podcast. You can find us. And I guess actually we've already kind of dealt with alongside me, Saul Bridges.
Saul Bridges. Lucky episode 98, 97.
98.
98, that's what I thought.
Yep. Anyway, if you are joining us for your first time, you can normally find us on YouTube in video format on Mondays at 10 a.m. PST and 12 p.m. CST. If you like what we're doing there, subscribe, hit the bell notification, let you know when these videos go live, like we said, every Monday and every other Friday with our reader mails as we are doing. And then anything else that we do extra will, of course, come up just naturally. If you like what we're talking about, or if you have any thoughts of your own, leave them down in the comments below. We like hearing them and seeing them. Definitely. It's funny that we're talking about clouds this episode because most recently I can't remember the name of the user, but we had a YouTuber who commented about the fact that he does not want streaming in gaming, so it kind of works out that we're going to be talking about that. If you want to listen to us only in audio format and don't want to see our ugly mugs, you can do so on podcast services, be it on PC, iPhone, Android, doesn't matter. You can find us on iTunes. If you do, consider giving us a review, letting us know what you think of the show. Main reason is that it just helps get the show up there and it helps people find us a little more naturally. And of course, it does let us know what you like about the show and what you don't like so that we can take those things into account as we move forward with the show. If you want to listen to us on Android, you can, of course, do so with Google Play Music, Google Podcast, Podcast Addict. We've recently added to Stitcher and TuneIn, a couple of things. Like we said, if there's any that you find that we are not on, send them to us. We'll figure that out. We are on Spotify. If you have Spotify, want to find us there. You can find us on social media where we put our post up, be it on Twitter or Facebook. On Twitter, you can find us at Triangle SQRD as our handle, and on Facebook, you can find us at Triangle Squared, a PlayStation podcast. But you will not see Saul there as he does not have a Facebook.
I sure don't.
If you want to support the show and like what we are doing and you find value in it and you would like to give that value or the value that you find in it, you can do so on Patreon. We have the link in the description down below. And of course, if you want to join our day-to-day, moment-to-moment, which I've been a little absent from and Saul has too for different reasons, mainly I think busyness and sickness kind of just all together because I've been a little sick as well.
I've been sick and busy, yeah.
But we've not been on Discord as much as usual, but you can normally find us on Discord pretty commonly along with the rest of the community on there. So join up in that. That description is in the link below as well. With that said, I think we are good to move on into what we have been playing this week. It's a short week, so I guess right before we do that, I will say that we're going to record early. This is Thursday.
2 days.
Excuse me.
2 full days before we normally record, on average.
I have to go out of town this weekend, so I will not be in town Saturday. And so that we make sure, because I will be coming back on Sunday, but it's a long drive, 6-hour drive. And just to make sure that nothing happens where we can't get the episode out, I wanted to record early just to be sure. So with that said, there's going to be some things we miss in news. There's going to be, it's just going to be a slightly weird episode, and we're going to kind of let things go and just get the episode out as it is. So if it's shorter than usual, we apologize, but we're doing our best to give you a show every week like we always promise. So Saul, what you been playing? Come on.
I have been playing Kingdom Hearts 3, obviously. I beat that yesterday, so Wednesday.
I'm proud of you.
Yep, I had a real good time. I think that if I stew on it a little bit more and like a fully grasped opinion on it, I think that we might be able to do an impressions episode soon. Maybe, possibly.
I would really like that. I miss doing the impressions episode.
Yeah, I do too.
Mainly because on a game like this,
there's so much to talk about, and
the spoiler section. So if you don't know,
it's going to be about 10 minutes of normal talk, then the rest is going to be spoilers. I'm just going to tell y'all how it's going to be.
Yeah, with a game like Kingdom Hearts 3, I don't think it's unfair of us to say, when it's something of a long series like that and it ties directly in with the previous ones, I mean, we may get a little bit more than 10 minutes, but Saul's basic point is with a game like that, it's really hard to do impressions. And then the way we like to do our impressions, where we talk about the game in a completely spoiler-free aspect, things we did and didn't like about it, and then we move into the latter half of the episode, or the latter part of the episode, where we go completely into spoiler talk. In a game like Kingdom Hearts 3, there's going to be so much to unpack from a spoiler perspective, and I'm so excited to talk about my feelings on that game in a way
I am too.
that I can get them out where no worry about spoiling anything for anybody, because of the we always give our time and say spoiler wall now, 10 seconds, turn away, come back later. I'm so excited to do it. Spoiler as my opinion of the game, I loved it, but I do want to get into other things because no game's perfect. So that'll be something that we hopefully get to do sometime next week.
Yeah, something like that maybe.
Just schedules are not going to line up for it other than that, but I think it'd be a fun thing to talk about. So anything else though, Saul?
Really, I played one game of that new Apex.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called? Apex or
Apex Legends?
Legends, that's right. I keep on calling it Apex Predator for some reason. But yeah, Apex.
A crocodile?
A crocodile. But
oh my God. That's what we're going to do. Apex Predator Battle Royale. It's going to be a bunch of crocodiles.
Swamp animals.
Yep. 100.
Or swamp amphibians.
100 crocodiles are just going to come down onto a map. Do we want to make them anthropomorphic?
No, we don't.
Or just want to make it to where you play as an alligator or a crocodile and you just move around and bite each other strategically.
This is going to sound like a dumb...
it sounds like a better thing in my head than I know it will be mechanically.
I said it. Okay, reptile. Yeah, biology.
Oh, yeah.
I said amphibian.
Crocodile's a reptile, yeah.
I'm still trying to come off of this cold. But it was the roughest cold I've ever had in my life, too. But, yeah, I played like one game of that. Controls are kind of weird. They do a lot, like with the controls, like holding R1, L1 to do different things.
Okay.
Holding up on the D-pad, right on the D-pad, left on the D-pad, I'm pretty sure.
So I haven't played yet, but it sounds like you're kind of confirming what I already thought from screenshots. Essentially, there's a bunch of wheels in the game, right?
Yes.
You hold L1, it'll pull the wheel that lets you do one thing.
Really useful wheels, too.
Yeah.
It's just... It's probably, and I'm saying this as somebody who hasn't played a lot of it, obviously, with just only one round. Even though we did get second place, but I think that it's one of those things I got to get used to, because right now in my mind it's like if you ask me how are the controls, I'm gonna say bad, because it feels bad, but it may be something that you just have to get used to. So I can't speak so soon on them.
Yeah, and I think that's true of some games, right? They don't always feel immediately good to you. Though that's one of the things I gave credit to Anthem for. I was really surprised at how
fluid it all felt.
Flying, if nothing else, felt.
Yeah, so
which is the thing I was most worried about. But I guess it makes sense. It's the thing that they most wanted to hit. But I guess, okay, so it's been a while, obviously, since we played Titanfall 2. Do you feel like it doesn't control similarly to Titanfall 2 outside of the wheels?
I've never had this thought when playing Titanfall 2, so I don't remember this being a problem.
Yeah.
So I don't remember thinking that when I did play that game. So
well, part of the reason I think that, right, is that some of our experience in terms of playing first-person shooters recently have been more geared towards things like Destiny than something a little more akin to a traditional first-person shooter.
Yeah, and I would say that, like...
And I didn't know if that's painting your opinion in a weird way.
Well, kind of. It has a really cool ping system, so like you can actually... I think it's R1. It might be L1. But it's you basically have your crosshairs and you ping something, and it's like even your characters talk through everything. So like, and they communicate to your squad, because it's not I can't find it if there is, but I'm pretty sure you can't play solo. So you play with a squad of 3 teammates. You can actually revive in this game from the dead, which is the first battle royale I think to have done this, where you can get knocked down and get revived that way.
Okay.
But if you get knocked out, you don't have to watch somebody else play the entire round. They can actually pick up your respawn banner and take it to a respawn pod, and then you'll respawn in that. You won't have any weapons. You'll come into the match like it's brand new. But then typically if you find a respawn pod close enough, you can go back and get all your stuff.
Okay.
So I thought that was really
if
cool.
nobody beats you to it, essentially, right?
Yeah, as long as your teammates aren't jerks, yeah.
Because essentially what I saw is when you kill people, they drop like a little chest full of their items. Right?
Very, very typical battle royale. When they die, they drop a box, and then there's all their loot in that box. That was another thing that I didn't get a good enough feel for, was like the way the menus worked when looting stuff. It felt a little odd, but not really bad.
So not clunky, just you're not familiar enough with it yet to have a definitive opinion.
I guess different would be the best way to describe it. It's like you grab everything with square, but then when your inventory runs up, you have to go through your inventory and pick which one you don't want. And it feels kind of slow to me, but once again.
Well, you played a little bit more than me, I think. I had a very similar feeling from, and this is coming from somebody who doesn't play battle royales at all, so that's just giving you a kind of a frame of reference for there. But I've never played PUBG and I've never played Fortnite, even though I downloaded it just to try because everybody, I mean, this has been long ago before it became like this hit thing. Anyway, I never ended up playing either of them. And I did end up playing Blackout with you and Sean that one night.
Yeah, Blackout
I thought Blackout's menu system felt kind of clunky for me.
And that just might
that may be somebody who's just not used to the type of game in general. It just didn't feel... I don't know. Maybe it's a necessary evil to have that menu system, and there's a way to do it as fluid as possible. But when you're not used to those type of games, no matter what, it feels weird. It doesn't feel like what I would expect from a first-person game.
I do remember
definitely a Call of Duty. I guess when I say a traditional first-person shooter, which I guess at that point it's not being traditional anyway.
That's true. But yeah, it just feels different, and I think I remember thinking something like that with Blackout, where I had to get used to that, but.
So clear a couple things up for me because I've seen very little. Mm-hmm. It's set in the Titanfall universe, right?
Yes.
Are there mechs?
No.
Okay.
There's no wall running.
That's what I was going to say.
No double jumping, nothing like that. Now you can climb. You can slide down hills.
Okay.
So if you're running and you crouch and you're going down a hill, you can actually slide all the way down that hill.
I find that a little odd that they would put it in the Titanfall universe, but not even include, if nothing else, the whole idea of wall running and smooth movement.
They said that for a battle royale, that adds that extra like 3D layer of unpredictability. So if you're chasing somebody and they run to the around the corner to the left, there's one or two players they can be. They can either be in a door on that wall or they're down the wall. And in Titanfall, they could be up the roof. They could be running across the wall at a different height than what they're running at. And they said that kind of unpredictability doesn't work well in a battle royale game. Well, I actually agree with them with that.
I don't know that I do. I think, if anything, that actually serves... This goes back to my long-running argument that I had for a long time about Call of Duty players who were mad about the exosuit in Advanced Warfare and the ability... And this is essentially the same thing. They were mad that the game had a mechanical option in there for you to be strategic. And that means that if you were going to go in the air, and I mean, me and you know this. This is a big thing I didn't like about Black Ops 3 when I played the beta for it when we were coming off of Advanced Warfare. And I was like, okay, I actually enjoyed Advanced Warfare's multiplayer. I wonder if I'll do it here. And what it did is it just dumbed down the thing I actually liked. Advanced Warfare felt more tactical in the fact that it gave you more control at your hands.
Options.
Yeah, exactly. So the thing that people got mad about the most is that once you got in the air, you could choose to boost downward back to the ground, so you could get back to the ground quick. If you decided that once you got in the air, it probably wasn't a good idea because you were too
or even
open.
A ducking mechanism, basically.
Exactly. You could also use your boost to dodge to the left or the right. And I love that. It felt intuitive, but it also felt like I'm in full control. So anytime I die, it's because not only was it that I made a decision to be in the air, but I also wasn't quick enough or skilled enough or thoughtful enough to think to quickly go back down to the ground whenever I was otherwise jeopardized.
Right.
And I think that's what I thought, in my mind, I was like, cool. I was excited, and now I'm a little bummed that in my mind, I was like, okay, Apex Legends will let me at least, I was like, maybe they won't be mechs because that makes sense, right? That's more of a military level thing, I would imagine. Now, I don't know what the lore around this game is, if there's any, as to why this is going on. But as far as outside of that, just think about putting it in the world with general people. I was like, I could see it still having wall running, but not having mechs, and that makes sense from a scale perspective.
I'll tell you this much about why I hate Fortnite.
So is it the same reason as why you think that wall running shouldn't be in?
Yeah, it's pretty much...
The building adds that predictability?
It's that unpredictability. So, if I'm firing at somebody in a game of any kind, like any normal first-person game or third-person game, there's only a couple options they can do. And that's turn around and fire back. They can strafe over there to cover, strafe to the left for cover, wherever they may go. But I pretty much know all of the options. In Fortnite, they could start building weird staircases and going on these different, vertical directions instead of X and Y axis, they now have a Z axis. They can go up randomly.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make fun for a competitive game because then it becomes that. It becomes too many instances of the exact same thing happening, and it's a frustrating thing to happen.
Well, that's why I think you've got to play this balancing game, right? As to how often you can do something, right? So when I use Advanced Warfare as my point of my point of reference for these things, essentially you have to set something up where it's there for you to utilize it as much as possible, and that encourages people to be skillful and thoughtful in what they're doing, and encourages the fact that if nothing else, in my opinion, it just stops people from being able to blame the game for their death. Look, oh, this game's stupid, which, I mean, don't get me wrong, you're playing the game, you understand the mechanical limitations, but the more mechanical options that it's going to give me to do better, the more I enjoy it, because I feel like at this point, when I fail, it's entirely on me, because it has nothing to do with the way the game chose to be. So, like, and I my example for Black Ops 3 was like, well, if you accidentally double tapped X and jumped into the air and didn't intend to, maybe you should have been more thoughtful and not done that, but it stuck you in the air because you had to wait until your boost died out to fall.
Right.
That's too much of a punishment because it doesn't give you any kind of recourse to get back down. But what you can essentially do is try and find this balance where in that particular thing, you can't do it too much, but you still have the option. So in Fortnite, you can build, but maybe limit how much you can build in a second, or build in a consecutively.
Right. Good players though don't like those limits aren't really applied to them. They can build as fast as they can, and if you're good at building,
I'm sorry, you said what players?
Like real competitive.
Oh yeah, and that's what I was saying now. But that's not on the. So the problem isn't that Fortnite has the building option. It's the
no, it has the building option. That's the problem.
It's the problem that they don't regulate it enough to make it a strength but a weakness depending on
the whole
so where you can use it to help you, but if you use it too much of it's if you abuse it, then it comes back to bite you.
One of the main strats in Fortnite is that when you're running and somebody is behind you shooting at them, it's just to start running back and start building walls in front of you. And then that way there's walls they have to break down, or it's
exactly, and that's what I'm saying. And that would be the way you do it. Now maybe you can place one wall, right?
But that's the thing though, is that
let's call it one wall. That would be the limitation. That would be within reason.
That would kill the uniqueness of Fortnite though. Like that would
fair enough, but I think that you could still keep a building aspect, and maybe not one, but I assume, and again, not played Fortnite. From everything I can tell, you have to get materials to build, right?
Right.
Okay, so. But within reason, if you're pretty good at collecting materials, you can kind of just build relatively infinitely.
Oh yeah, if you spend like the first 10 minutes of the game, if not even that,
scavenging correctly.
If you just go start grinding out materials, you could have like 600 stone and 600 wood and have no issues. And then for the rest of the game, if somebody starts shooting at you, you have walls. Yeah, and it became an annoying thing. In Titanfall, the way that everything worked out so well within itself worked out really, really well. I think that a game without mechs, though, in a battle royale game where the maps are massive, when you're chasing after somebody and they dart inside of a building, there's too many components on where they just went. And I think that it makes it for just an unleveled playing field. And I don't say unleveled in like the terms of skill, but I should say unlayered. Like where I like the predictability of like if I go into a building, there may be boxes in there or something they're hiding behind, but there's no way that if there's a rail in the middle, I know they got up to that rail that fast. Because it's like I know that they walked in and they ran that way. There's no way they can go across the warehouse or where they ran into up to the rail. But then in Titanfall, they may be able to run up the wall the second they run in or run across the wall and get on that rail.
And that, I guess, in my mind, I just consider that a risk versus reward situation.
It works out
to where if you balance it like I'm talking
about,
if you balance it just correctly, and you don't if you have it to where there's an incentive to use it because it's going to help you, but if you use it too much, it's going to come back to bite you. Essentially, like if you rely on it too much, you're going to run out of
I think then you're adding way too many components in for an already muddled game type.
And that's a decent argument. I don't know, but I guess my biggest thing is like the one thing I noticed about Blackout is it's too mechanically shallow to be repetitively fun for me.
Right.
Whereas I feel like if you added something like a layer of wall running and gave the right, if you took the right credence into making sure that you essentially were going to pull back when necessary. Kingdom Hearts has always done this, right? You have like a revenge counter of some sorts where eventually if you're doing enough damage to somebody, they'll be able to break your combo regardless.
Yeah.
Or if you overly rely on, and this is in Kingdom Hearts 2, if you overly rely on the drive forms, eventually you end up getting anti-sword drive form or whatever it was called.
Yeah, because, it's like negative sword almost.
Exactly, and it was a problem, right? The game started doing that as if it noticed that you were going in the drive too often, it upped your percentage of a chance of it turning into that drive. And that's what I like, is it's a risk versus reward thing. So doing it has a risk, but it also has a reward if it works for you. Doing it too much has a risk, but also a reward. And you're constantly trying to push that boundary. And I think that's how you keep it fun and engaging for people when those games are kind of live and die on not too terribly many maps, not really a lot of game modes. The game mode is Battle Royale. So you're trying to find a way to make that repetitious gameplay as fun as possible for as long a period as possible. I honestly cannot imagine, and I mean, I guess the building helps for a little while, but I know people who literally just play Fortnite for over a year straight, and it blows my mind.
Yeah, I don't see like
I can't. I mean, I can't.
And I think that it's a problem. It's a fundamental problem with just about every battle royale game. But the thing with the way they work is that you go in, you basically start a brand new game, and you do all this work, and then you die. And then you only can get tired of that so many times. So what I like about Apex Legends is that you revive. So just because I die, I have to reset my progress, but I don't have to wait into a line and get in a new game.
So how does that affect winning?
What do you mean?
If you can come back.
Well, you're in a squad. So, like, no matter what, if you are dead when your squad wins, you win.
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out, though. I get that. But how does it work to that if you can revive? Because you can do squad play on Fortnite, I think. And I know you can do it on Blackout. So when you do squad play there, you just die, and then your squad is weaker. And it's the risk versus reward of being too crazy.
Well,
now, I like the idea. Don't get me wrong. I like the idea of reviving. But how does it play into deciding who wins? Is there a score system?
Technically, it's weaker. No, it's whoever is the last person standing. So, like, you're not technically weaker depending on the variables, because you could come across a squad with 2 people dead, and 2 people alive, or you could come across 1 dead and 3 people alive, or you could come across 1 alive and 3 dead.
All right.
So the way it works is that if I died and I failed to revive you and my other teammate, because the squad's of 3.
Sure.
If I won, all I'd have to do is kill the last person standing, and we win no matter what. Okay. So if we got to the middle of the inner circle or whatever, then there's 3 people there, and I got a triple kill, wiped them all out clean with a grenade or something, and I'm the last one, that ends the game, and we won. Our squad won, even though y'all are dead.
That makes sense.
So it works out good. But what have you been playing?
Okay, Kingdom Hearts 3, obviously, and pretty much only Kingdom Hearts 3, actually. I've not played anything else.
Yeah, it's a good game
I beat it on Saturday night, shortly after we recorded. I say shortly.
You say shortly. You probably
it was 2 a.m. It was 2 a.m. But still.
I was like, there ain't no way you beat it just an hour or two where you told me you were
Well, I was trying to think of when we recorded. For some reason, I thought it was later in the afternoon than usual. Regardless, I don't know when we recorded, but I beat it that night at 2 a.m. in the morning. I stayed up Friday night, grinded through a lot of it. Then we recorded, and I stayed up again just to make sure I could get through it. And then after beating it, I've essentially been on the platinum grind. I've been rolling through. I did all the gummy ship stuff first, because normally that's the part I hate, but I absolutely love the gummy ships in this game.
It's okay. They're better than the old games.
See, that's I can see it being fine with saying they're okay, because realistically, they are eventually going to lose their luster, obviously.
To me, it's just a glorified loading screen with some cool boss battles.
I wouldn't say a glorified. I feel like that's what they used to be. But now the reason I say now they're not is essentially because of the way, and this is covering one thing that we could have talked about in the impressions, but just in case you've been on the fence because you never cared for gummy ships and you were kind of mad about the fact of them being back in here, I feel like this is easily the best way they do it. You're essentially
it is the best way they've ever done it.
You're essentially in an open world space area. Battles happen because you actually see them. You can completely avoid the Heartless.
You can land on planets and name them.
Oh, yep. Anyway, and then essentially you'll see all of the worlds that you can visit in a system. It's like they're set up, separated by like galaxies or whatever.
It's the same as it has been in 2 and 3. Or
no,
3.
because on those you would choose the place you wanted to go to, and then it would have a predetermined same route that you'd go to, and you couldn't do anything, and it was all on rails.
The map menu.
Well, yeah, but you don't have to do that, because you can just embark into the area and fly around free ball. And I guess you didn't realize that.
I mean, yeah, because you could select one of those systems, or not a system, but a star.
All you just choose is where you want to start and embark from, and you never have to go anywhere. You don't even have to flag a planet.
Oh, I thought you had to flag a star or something.
You don't have to. All you got to do is just find a waypoint, and you'll spawn there.
But even then, it was fun, but it wasn't. I'd rather be doing other things in the game than that.
No, sure, but it acts as essentially a pacing refresher to an extent when you just did a bunch of fighting, you know what I mean?
Right.
And that's what they've always been, in my opinion, and it's just an interesting way to move between worlds. But anyway, I did all that first, and then I've slowly moved toward completing all of the treasures and lucky emblems in every world that I didn't quite get. And then I've done like 4 of the 7 Fantastic 7 missions. So I'm slowly working my way through it and enjoying it. And I'm not just trying to platinum it for sure by the time that any of these other games come out, definitely with me leaving out of town this weekend. But I'm trying to get as far as I can within reason and just general normal play. And then I'm going to kind of just slowly splice in doing trophy cleanup once other games are out, like Metro, stuff like that. So I've not played anything else, but Salt, normally this would be your time to shine with the drop.
But since we're recording on
but there's not a drop.
Yeah, Thursday instead of a Friday, there is no drop. So
let's see. When's the 14th would be what next? So there's a number of games releasing next Friday. Far Cry New Dawn, Metro Exodus.
Games I'm not picking up at all.
I mean, Metro Exodus is.
I'm picking up Metro Exodus, not next week.
But
I think
anyway,
I'm gonna play Resident Evil first.
Crackdown 3 is still on the 15th? Or did it move?
I'm pretty sure it's still on the 15th, but we're a PlayStation podcast.
Oh, I know, but I'm just thinking of any game coming out that day because there was a lot all at once. And then we have a little bit of time till Anthem. I think Anthem moved to the 22nd. Is that right? Or the 19th?
22nd.
Okay, so a Friday release still.
It never moved. That was the original day to go to.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I thought it was the 15th at first, too.
No, that's when...
so many...
It's like if you have EA access, that's when you could play it.
Oh, okay.
So I'm pretty sure Xbox can play it that day, but we can't.
Well, that may be changing. We'll get into that when we're in the news.
I hope so.
But Saul, since I stole your ability to have your time to shine, do you want to fill it with anything, or you just want to move along?
We'll move along into the news.
All right. So first thing up, PlayStation have been sending games media invitations to Days Gone protagonist Deacon's wedding to his wife Sarah that we saw in the initial reveal trailer. I don't know if y'all remember the flashback scenes where it showed her riding on the motorcycle with him in what we can only presume to be before the outbreak, So the event is a YouTube invitation for a video that's going to be going on February 13th, which is really interesting because it's the day before Valentine's Day. So it almost seems like they're going to set up I almost wish it would have been on Valentine's Day and then the day after something crazy happened. But I'm wondering if they're going to do this, have their wedding go down on the 13th, and then on the 14th they're going to reveal a video that does some kind of setup as to why the world went screwed up as just a lore build up.
I won't watch it because it's a week before launch or whatever, and then when I eventually buy that game, I don't want to be like, I'm still trying to keep clean on all these.
Well, yeah,
games.
It's not a week before launch. I mean, it's just because the game didn't come out till April. But
Oh yeah, that's right, because it was February 22nd. They moved
it was. And then it moved, which was probably a smart move. So anyway, February 13th. Check it out whenever it comes around. That'll be interesting to see. So looks like right now, what's weird about it, most of the people I've seen posting about it have been European. I had not seen a notable.
I actually noticed that on Twitter the other day. It was it was a lot on Twitter.
I've not seen a notable American. That or North American, I'll even say, All
right, Days Gone effect. Well, now we said that on the podcast, it's going to happen the day after the podcast airs. Just like I said, there has been
because Sony listens to this podcast and waits.
I said there's been no representation of Days Gone in a media form in terms of advertisement, and then the next 2 or 3 days blew up.
What Saul doesn't realize is that somebody who, who it was? You know the kid that you thought grabbed your backpack and you punched him? He works at Sony now, and he decided, you know what?
Give me a job, dude.
He's like, you know what? Saul has a Sony podcast.
I said we were friends after that, though. Why'd you betray me?
That's just such a great story. Somebody grabbed my backpack, I turned around and punched him. That's a perfect example of why in this life you can never just assume that you understand what just happened.
That's true.
For those of you who did not know what happened, Saul punched somebody who grabbed his backpack and kind of pulled him back. But what happened is they were falling and they kind of reached their hand out and grabbed his backpack to try and catch themselves and ended up just pulling both of them down. Which still, maybe he shouldn't have been grabbing your backpack, but he was just.
I told you
young.
That was me and John. We became good friends after that because I punched him square in the face off the flight of stairs.
That's so funny.
I was in 5th grade or 6th grade. It was 5th grade, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it seems like. Who knows, man? That male testosterone when you're young.
So I know the school it was.
Yeah. Anyway, next up on the list, Capcom have recently stated that cult classic Dragon's Dogma could have a sequel, but the creator chose to make Devil May Cry 5 first. I mainly put this in there because I found that to be interesting.
And in this day, Ryan lashes out with a cry of emotion. Ryan GT. I feel like I need to specify that now.
We almost have to now. that was an interesting thing because I saw that and I was like, you know how many people I know who have been like, I really wish they'd make a Dragon's Dogma 2, but my thing is, I felt like Capcom were at least okay with giving it another situation because of the fact that they released The Dark Arisen again. So that seemed like, well, they're not shying completely away from it unless they're trying to use this as a way to get as much money back from it as possible. But Ryan GT, as we will now start calling you.
I say we'll say Ryan on. They're both on Twitter. Ryan, we'll call Alpha Ryan. Or we'll call Ryan Alpha, and then we'll call Ryan GT just Ryan.
Okay.
So Ryan Alpha and Ryan.
Okay, anyway, look at that. You get more Dragon's Dogma eventually, so you can you'll have another game to splurge all over. Next thing up on the list, speaking of Devil May Cry 5's demo that we talked about a little while back is out this week for people.
Download that right now. That's what I meant to do a second ago.
Try the game ahead of its release next month. So if you've been curious about how it plays or what's going on with
Apparently it's as slow as molasses,
out.
and I'm not looking forward to it.
That is interesting,
multiple
man.
People say that.
I saw that. So Sean in our Discord, Mr. Santarud, just so I can specify, mentioned that he played it and that it was slow to him, and I was surprised.
He did?
Yeah.
I've heard that from a lot of people, actually.
Yeah, and I asked, that's odd. I was like, slower than Kingdom Hearts? And he goes, notably. So, or whatever. He said something similar along that, and I was really surprised. Because I guess in my mind, do you remember your time playing? Because we have to kind of do this off of, we don't count DMC since it was Ninja Theory, even though I enjoyed the game. But more importantly, the last time we had a Capcom developed or Devil May Cry was Devil May Cry 4, correct? All right, so I didn't play 4. So I don't understand. I don't know how fast it was, but dude, Devil May Cry 3 was a speedy game. So in my mind, that's where it's supposed to be.
They're all speedy. Like 4 was pretty speedy, a little slower than 3, but pretty speedy.
Okay.
DMC was the speediest of them all to me.
Yeah, no, dude, DMC was quick.
So
that's why I'm saying I don't want to count that because that's probably not fair to the franchise as a whole. But the Capcom developed ones have always still had a nice brisk pace to them. You know what I mean? Like when moment to moment action is up there. So
yeah, and I'm looking forward to playing it. So I'm gonna try it out. I just downloaded the demo, so I'll probably play it tonight.
I don't know when because I have to leave as soon as I get off work tomorrow. So I don't know what's going to happen. I may not. I mean, it's not like it's timed, so I may play it eventually ahead of the release. But we'll see.
I like the Resident Evil 2 one. I still got to buy that game. Oops. I'm sorry, Mike.
Oh, anyway, this next one is something that Saul is just over the moon about. Due to Shaggy memes circling the web, a petition was started to add Shaggy as a guest character in Mortal Kombat 11. That happened a little bit back, but we chose not to cover it initially. But I figure why not do it now? Because after some teasing, this is why I decided to include it. Ed Boon kind of just trolled and teased his way around it and did a lot of things. And people had art where they like superimposed him into the game and did drawings and stuff.
Almost real.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. And then there was also some requests for him to be added into Injustice 2, which is a little more sensible because the precedent for different characters to come into the Injustice world has already been set with the likes of, anyway, with the likes of the Ninja Turtles coming in and some other bonus characters that were in that game. And the other thing is that obviously WB owns both of the characters, so WB actually could let Shaggy go into Injustice as it's not bloody or gory. It's possible. And you know what? The jury's not out on whether or not that's going to happen yet, but we can confirm right now that the devs currently say that he will not be available as a guest character, which is to no surprise. I would have a small, interesting idea of like seeing Shaggy as a character just in a game that's full of blood and guts, and I'd want to almost see what ridiculously funny ideas they'd use to be his X-rays. Like, he throws a Scooby snack on somebody and then Scooby comes, and it would be crazy if they decided to get like super visceral with it and like Scooby comes out and like throat bites somebody. You're like, whoa, calm down. That wouldn't be an X-ray. That would be the fatality.
Yeah.
But in general, even if you wanted to try and keep it a little more nice, have like Scooby come out and like tail whip somebody and break their shin bones or something. Hey, you've been hit by Vash's tail,
I've been
right?
hit by Dylan's tail too, and they all hurt.
Yeah. So anyway, that's not happening, and Saul's happy about it.
I am. Shaggy memes are Chuck Norris memes 2.0. Changed my mind.
Okay.
Same thing.
Okay.
Let's make some OP comments about this character who's not OP.
I'm smelling what you're stepping in, Saul.
Yeah.
I am. Okay, PSVR owners who are looking to grab Beat Saber or have taken a break from the game, the new update version 1.06 brings Expert Plus mode, fixes the stats that they had some problems with, and some extra graphical options for users to find their comfort level. So it's a good time to jump in if you never jumped in, or to jump back in case you were one who really loved it but took a little bit break off. I really want to try the game. I'm not giving my VR enough time since I've gotten my new TV, which has only been like 3 weeks, but still.
Why would that matter? You're not going to use your new TV with it.
Well, it's because my VR is like hidden behind it, and it's really kind of a hard thing.
Okay.
I need to rearrange my setup because this TV is just so much bigger than what I had that I haven't done it yet because I'm just lazy. And mainly I'm not lazy. I'm waiting till I can move my computer here completely, and then I won't have a computer to contend with in my desk space there. That's kind of where I'm trying to balance it. Once my computer's gone from in there, I'm changing that whole setup.
Do it all on Sunday. Oh, you got to get your desk in and stuff in here.
Yeah, that's the problem. So I'll get it done soon, and we'll kind of do that. But you know what? I've seen a lot, and with me going to the gym and stuff, why not have a couple of days where
look at this Chad.
The days I don't go to the gym. Look, hey, I'm just trying to be more fit. I have a family. The days I don't go to the gym.
I don't. No, I don't actually. I mean, technically I do, but.
I mean, you're not married and you don't have a child.
Yeah, there you go. I might be married in a month, though, boy.
But you know what? I'm going to give you a little bit of credence because I'm sure that Evie would be sad if you died prematurely.
I'd be sad if she died prematurely.
Exactly. So you know what?
My little kitty baby.
Yeah, you've got a family. I'm sorry that I was so mean to you, Saul. You have a family.
It's those muscles getting to you. It's okay. Too much testosterone.
The muscles are getting to my head.
Gotta go make it up with some tendies now.
You know, I will do that for you. I will do that for you.
Get some honey musty.
Next thing up, Skybound. Oh my God. Skybound Games, the company finishing The Walking Dead's final season, announced that they will be bringing 6 classic PC role-playing games to console for the first time ever. So if you are a big fan or have been curious about trying Baldur's Gate 1, Baldur's Gate 2, Baldur's Gate Siege of Dragonspear, Icewind Dale, Neverwinter Nights, shout out, love that game, or Planescape Torment, you will be able to play those on console sometime this year. From last I checked, they have not gone into exactly what consoles it's going to be on, but the broad terminology, you can expect PS4, obviously. You can expect Xbox. The Outlier, I don't know if it's coming to Switch yet. I've seen conflicting reports. So
I want it to because I'd probably buy these games on Switch.
See, that's what
Diablo 3 plays so good on Switch.
Here's the weird side of that. Those games, I get why they've never come to console before. And in my mind, I thought maybe they were coming to console because of the fact that most of the consoles support PC and mouse plugins now. But are they coming to console because they finally found a way that they can
handle the controls and
nicely put it on controls?
Yeah, probably so. I would assume that at least.
The Switch would have the added benefit of touch controls to pick up where.
Don't put touch controls in any Switch game, please. Stop it with the touch stuff.
Hold on. The only reason I say that, and I feel like this is at least fair. The only reason I say that on these type of games, they were originally built and intended for mouse inputs. It's very hard to mimic a mouse cursor input on a controller accurately. And that's why I end up hating them so much in games like Destiny when they make all their fucking freaking menus.
Did you say F word?
I did. I apologize. That's not normally what I try and do. Anyway, look, they put all that tells you how much I hate these. I hated it in No Man's Sky as well. I do not want a cursor in my menu. Just let me scroll through it. I don't get it.
You're gonna love Apex then. Cursor.
I hate it. But look, my point being, I don't even know. I've lost the forest for the trees now. I just don't. I could see them adding touch controls to make up for essentially just tapping on certain areas where you originally would move a cursor to do these certain things. And that wouldn't be too invasive, I wouldn't think. And it may even make playing them on Switch, if it gets them with a touchscreen, better of an experience.
I just want touchscreens to drop out of gaming. I don't like them.
I know you do, but you know what, Saul? I don't think you're going to get that anytime soon.
Probably not. Not at least with Nintendo.
Definitely when you think about the fact that phone gaming is still gaming and phones are touchscreen.
Well, that's true, but I'm talking about consoles and handhelds.
Yeah, I knew. Next up, EA have confirmed that Respawn, as we've been talking about, their Star Wars game is still on track for this year, as well as new Need for Speed and Plants vs. Zombies games. They also teased a Titanfall-related title that seemingly is coming this year, and they're using the word they use is a premiere.
I don't understand
Titanfall
it because they said you would not see another Titanfall game.
They never said that.
They said that.
Who is they? EA?
EA.
Or Respawn?
EA. I swear I just read a tweet. Maybe it was Respawn. But they're like, instead of Titanfall 3, you're getting this right now. Instead, Titanfall 3 is done and canceled. So what kind of Titanfall game are we going to get? Is it set in another Titanfall universe?
No, I don't know if Titanfall 3 is canceled. I didn't see that, so I'm not going to base anything off of that. But what they said, the way that they worded it, and from a lot of the reports I've seen, it looks like it may be another Titanfall universe spinoff.
Which I'm not cool with. Titanfall 3 canceled for Apex Legends. New Titanfall later this year.
Huh. Then I don't know.
So
but they're calling it a premier Titanfall, which means most likely it's not going to be free to play like Apex is.
It's funny. You're using ad blocker. No, thank you. WindowsCentral.com.
Okay. Anyway, look, when you think about it that way, Apex is free, so it's just going to be something that costs money, obviously. But if it's going to cost money, how much is it going to cost, and what kind of expectation can we get out of it? What are they going to do in the Titanfall universe that's not going to be a shooter that wouldn't be just essentially worthy of being called Titanfall 3?
Yeah, well, I think...
And this comes off of... I remember when I first saw this...
Did Titanfall 2 not lead up to a possible third one?
Nah.
They pretty much ended it there.
Yeah.
They could have done
self-contained
something cool like
stories.
That. Yeah, they could have did a cool self-contained story with the premise of mechs and stuff.
Well, I mean, you have a broad universe to do it across. Why not? You know?
Well, wouldn't that just make it Titanfall 3?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Why not? I don't see what they could do in the universe outside. Apex Legends makes sense. Don't call that Titanfall 3.
Yeah.
Obviously. It's not even... It doesn't even have a story or anything. And it's an entirely different type of multiplayer.
They could have called it Titanfall Ascension.
Yeah.
No, it's too close to Towerfall.
That's a good point. Yeah. Anyway.
That's the joke.
Look, I don't know how they would handle that, but do you think there's any chance, if we're going to run speculation wild, that they try and do a story in the Titanfall universe that's not based around being a shooter in the first-person shooter traditional sense?
I hope not.
But more in the vein of something like Destiny or Borderlands, where you're rolling through and killing multiple enemies?
Nope, I hope not.
I mean, I agree.
Liked the formula of Titanfall 2.
Yeah, I agree.
It was a really fun game, and I've actually contemplated picking it up when it was on sale again. So I think the way...
Titanfall 2 is $5.99 right now, bud.
I'm going to pick it up then, because that's a fun game.
Yeah.
And I suggest everybody play it. And
I don't know if it's $5.99 digital, but
I still need to play the campaign. I'm about to check right now.
Do it. Okay, next thing up then, Disney have come out, and this is all kind of following the EA thread, and spoken about their relationship with EA, saying that it has been great and that they are happy with how the license has been utilized for Star Wars under the company. Which is
liar.
Just, it's funny, right? Because
sit on a throne of lies.
We hear all this stuff about games getting canceled. The biggest controversy in gaming, I don't want to say that, that's a little hyperbole, but a very big controversy in gaming surrounding Battlefront 2. And then we see all this cancellations moving on. We've seen less games out of them than I think anybody who saw this deal go through expected. We saw EA, and you think they'll make a yearly Star Wars game. Why wouldn't they? It's EA. It's like if Activision got it. Activision would have a yearly, if possible.
Disney, even if you are happy with EA doing what they're doing, your fans aren't. That's the biggest problem right now.
That's a good point. And that's something that Disney needs to be mindful of as they do this. But you know what? Disney fell back on the fact that when they were trying to do self-publishing themselves and running through it, they never had success. So I guess when you compare it to that, this is still the relationship here, and the sales have still been good enough to warrant the fact that it's easier on them and they're not having to deal with it.
I still don't believe that the Star Wars game is coming out this year either. The Respawn one.
Why do you think that?
It's February. It's. I mean, well, there's no like.
Well, wouldn't that be one of EA's? Because look, this is the year that Battlefield takes a break.
Technically, yeah. So
wouldn't it be the year to do this type of game?
It's very
It'd be
rare.
their big Q3 game, Q4.
It's very rare in the culture of gaming right now to have an E3, say for example, like this game's coming out in 3 months in November or 4 months in November.
I get your point, but just to add into it to see if it kind of counteracts the rest of where you're going with it, they did say that we're going to see the game very soon. That doesn't imply to me June. I think they're going to do and Star Wars is a big enough thing that I could see them doing some kind of a stream or event that's going to show the game off.
So I would bet May the 4th be with you on my birthday. Streaming on my birthday.
I could actually see that, but May is too close to June, in my opinion.
I know. No, it is.
But that would be cool.
But it's a whole 31 days away. Is that too close for some people? See, that's what I don't like about the terminology
very
they
soon.
use.
I know.
I also haven't had a new Star Wars game that's not a Battlefront game in like what?
Since
Force Unleashed 2?
2011?
11. Yeah. So I don't believe it when you say a game's coming this year and I haven't seen proof. I haven't seen gameplay. I haven't seen pictures, concept art, nothing.
I thought it was odd that they announced it, they titled it, they said it was coming this year, all last year. You know,
all last year.
Well, no, they didn't announce it last year. They announced it the year before that, but they did everything else last year.
They did everything at E3 this year, except the announcement.
Yeah, the announcement happened beforehand. We knew that they were making one.
Right. So
but they did so much. That's why
we haven't seen anything in 8 months now since then about this game. We haven't seen concept art.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't seen a trailer. Here comes the triangle squared effect where next week it's going to get revealed. We're going to look stupid, but we haven't seen nothing about it yet.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things that's like, if it's coming this year, I will be very surprised.
Well, because one more thing that may happen, I don't think they're going to wait till May 4th, though they very well could.
I mean, yeah, I doubt they actually wait that long.
Well, even then, I was going to say, if they couple it alongside with the announcement of Episode 9 for Star Wars.
They've already confirmed they started filming.
Well, yeah, I know that, but I'm saying
you talking about like a trailer? Oh, okay.
Like they did
you said confirm.
Okay, 9. Yeah, you're right. Bad wording. But no, when they do the reveal for the trailer for Episode 9, if they wait to do that on May 4th, which I think is when they did Episode 8's trailer, if they do it that way and couple it together, then maybe May 4th. But if it's, I don't know, very soon, it just seems like it'd be coming a lot sooner than that. So
we're looking at a fall release date for the Jedi Fallen Order.
Exactly.
I keep on calling it Fallen Jedi.
It would be their Q3 release, essentially. It would take up the part that normally has Battlefield take up. You know what I mean? And I don't know what else. Because I guess they staggered their releases to an extent. You know, Need for Speed moved 2 year.
Who was the publisher for Force Unleashed?
LucasArts, Disney original.
That's right.
Yeah, that was one of the self-published games.
If they could make a yearly Star Wars, I'd say bi-yearly, honestly.
Yeah, bi-yearly.
Yeah, give it time to like get work on it. But
well, and to not do what they did with the Star Wars movie, which is overcloud the market. We don't need that much Star Wars. If you start doing it with games and movies, it's gonna be a problem.
Still haven't seen Solo yet.
Me either, and I don't want to.
I kind of don't either.
So. Next up, though, on the trail of EA's recent fiscal report showed that the company underperformed due partially, or at least in some part, due to Battlefield 5 sales falling below expectations and a drop in mobile gaming revenue, which is interesting because mobile gaming has been a pretty big pillar for EA for a while. And actually, not necessarily involving with EA, though there is one more thing. Square Enix also faced weak results in their first 9 months of their current fiscal year, which is different for Japan. They chalked the problems up to high development costs alongside underperforming mobile games. So that's also very similar to EA in the sense that it seems like mobile games may be on a downswing. Don't know. Or that free ones, because that's the other thing. Fortnite is now competing in the mobile gaming space.
Yeah, so it's like every 10-year-old that has an iPad is like has Fortnite on the iPad. Where
much. Originally it would be, oh well, I'm going to play this.
Dude, I saw a meme the other day of like I can't remember what the image of the meme was, but it was like when you're 9 years old and you can't stand still for more than 20 minutes without doing a Fortnite dance. Dude, I was like, that's a funny looking meme. I saw it the other day. So a kid was standing there doing a Fortnite dance, and at work I was just like,
I've seen it.
Like, why? I'm trying to think if there was anything when I grew up, like what that was. Because I know there was something. I just don't remember what it is.
Not a game, but...
No, I'm talking about like something you would do in public to reference something you liked when we were younger. I guess that
it's a little culturally different because I think social media really paints the way that we view how you're supposed to act in society. But I would say that there was a large group of people who would do... Dragon Ball Z, for us, was very
So I guess
big.
like doing Kamehamehas?
Kinda.
Or fusion dances.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did that at school a couple times.
That's what I mean. Is it just like, as much as I don't care for Fortnite because I haven't played it. I mean, I don't even know anything about that.
Also, you just compared Dragon Ball Z to Fortnite, so have fun.
No, dude, I mean that in terms of the cultural impact that it's had in the same time period of our lives.
I don't think Fortnite has had any kind of like real impact. I mean, I'm sure like when you think about it, like people looked up to people in Dragon Ball Z and characters and got moral balances from stuff like
Different type of impact, but same amount of impact, I think.
It's a moral impact, I would say.
Yeah. There's a very difference. There's a very big difference, but they're still both very impactful. And what they do is they impact the way that kids interact with each other. Because the thing about it is, when we were young, that you could pretty much go to any other kid, definitely at the time,
and just start saying, and then they'll start doing it too.
And you know that they're going to know exactly what you're talking about.
No matter who you are in the world, you're not going to tell me that saying that isn't or flossing from Fortnite. The floss dance is not as cool as doing the Kamehameha. Kamehameha will always be.
But that's also painted by our nostalgia.
Nope. That's not an opinion. That's fact. I wrote it down.
All right, Saul.
It's true.
Your fact. Okay. Last thing up on EA, though, I guess not necessarily. During the conference call, EA CEO Andrew Wilson, and this ties back to what I was talking about with EA Access, but they spoke about EA's plans in the year ahead to, quote, offer a subscription service on another major platform, end quote. Now, thing is, that's a pretty vague statement, but a lot of people have speculated that that is EA Access coming to PlayStation finally. I don't know what else it could be, because what else would EA be able to do from a streaming service side other than Access? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're a single publisher. Access is essentially what you'd expect from a streaming service of them, or not a streaming service, but you know what I mean, a subscription service. So to that end, I think that it's reasonable to say that it might be, but have you heard all these rumblings around? And it says this year, though. That's the interesting thing. But have you heard rumblings that Google has been wanting to enter the console market?
Yeah, and honestly, it's one of those things that's like, you're probably not going to have a good first attempt, but I wouldn't be surprised by a good second and third attempts.
Yeah, agreed. Then again, they could, right? They could be the new PlayStation. They could be the shake-up. Gaming doesn't need a shake-up right now in the same way. Well, but PlayStation was a big shake-up for the Nintendo Sega crowd.
It needs a handheld shake-up from Sony.
I would agree with that. Or at least I would agree that I'd want that. I don't necessarily know if business-wise it's going to happen or be smart, but, I would like it. So that's an interesting thing. If you've been looking for EA Access on the thing, maybe this is your moment. I can't say for sure. Okay, next up, the Titanfall Universe Battle Royale game that was teased was revealed to be Apex Legends, as we have now talked about at length. The game impressively reached 10 million players in just 3 days. So the game is doing quite well. The game also promises crossplay down the road, though progress and purchases will not carry over, very similar to what we saw happen with Fortnite last year, which seems like it's probably, again, due to something to do with Sony's cross-platform or crossplay, but we don't know for sure.
Okay. I thought I looked over at the monitor. It's real choppy. But, it's crazy because I think the only thing that I've seen so far is that it's class-based, by the way. It's not like class-based in terms of like you have to play these classes to work together, but every class, like you just don't pick a random character and go in, or you're not like a random soldier. There are classes that have super abilities, but they don't really correlate with each other from what I can see. Or they don't really synergize with you. I don't know why I'm trying to give that to you. They don't really synergize with each other. From what I can tell about this that makes any sense is that skins, like that's the only thing I think would not transfer over really, but I guess if you're buying them with real money, that matters. I mean, obviously it's free to play, so it's going to have some form of a microtransaction backing as its monetary state. So I wonder if this
I don't know
will
what
ever
you buy.
Somehow make it to the Switch. I doubt it due to the way it runs, but because even on PS4, my PS4 Pro with super sampling on, it has some drops and pop-ins, but that's kind of expected for a battle royale game at this point.
Yeah, partially just due to server stressing more than anything.
Even though I'll say as much crap as I talked about Fortnite, and even though I did have fun with it, that game never dropped a frame on me.
Yeah, it's a game that I think they were smart in making sure that they didn't over-push anything. It's a good art style that looks good anyway, and it's something that probably isn't so physically demanding so that they can make sure that the server side runs well and just let it go.
It ran flawlessly.
But, speaking of server side things, one thing I have to give, and I've seen somebody else say this, but realistically, I agreed with it because I did not see a peep out of Twitter of anybody. This is a surprise release with no betas, with nothing to server stress test. They had no clue how big it might be, and yet, far as I can tell, they've hit 10 million players in 3 days, and they did not have a single server problem entire time.
Yeah, I haven't seen anybody talking about it on Reddit or Twitter.
More interesting that they're both EA, but Anthem had server problems for the beta.
Oh, I guarantee they had way more than 10 million, though.
I don't know. For the VIP beta?
I mean, they were giving out codes like candy.
That's true.
those weren't VIP codes. That was a. I had to go. I'm just trying to think of what I'm going to say. Like, it's locked behind a code that I go find on Twitter, basically. Like, you didn't even have to do really work for that.
Yeah, walk down the street and you see a piece of paper floating by. Oh, okay.
Yeah, Anthem code.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, look, all I'm saying is impressive on their part. And maybe that actually spells good things for, hopefully, Anthem's actual release. Definitely with the fact that they had a couple of betas under their, belts to actually see how the server stretch would go. But... Next thing up, though, Shadow of the Tomb Raider's 4th DLC has been revealed to be titled The Price of Survival. That includes new gear with a new story chapter and is releasing on February 12th. So I think that's Tuesday. Yeah.
Tuesday. When
Normal
the store
Tuesday, good
updates.
release. Next thing up, Kingdom Hearts 3 broke 5 million sales, and I feel like I got to say something about this in a second.
Oh, I do too. I think
Across
it's the same
physical and digital sales, becoming the fastest selling in the franchise, and soon to edge out Kingdom Hearts 1 as the best selling game in the franchise, which sits at 5.9 million copies. So it's very close. Probably already done at this point. It was also on top of the downloaded game. It was the top downloaded game from the PS Store for January. I said early on to keep expectations in check, because I'm going to say historically the series has never sold that well. And one of our buddies, Corey, was saying that he thought it would go on to sell 20 million or something. I said, well, you really need to
temper that
expectation. And he kind of started coming back down. But you know what? When we think about what Final Fantasy VII sold, it sold what? 8.1 million by 7. So I mean,
6 something.
Look, we're doing incredibly well coming up to those numbers, and realistically, all
those people bought this game don't know what a Xehanort is.
That was my thought process.
It's their first game.
Is that how many people, is this their first game or their first game back since 2?
No, I was gonna say, or their first game after buying the collection.
But here's the interesting thing.
The story so
could
far.
Could be that. But the bigger thing is there has to be people that are playing this game for the first time ever.
Dude, I cannot imagine.
Because think about this. The first game sold 5.9 million. So technically right now we're at a point where
we're almost thinking,
number-wise speaking, there is the chance that every person who has played Kingdom Hearts 3 so far at least played the first game.
I will say something,
but
it does a good job of explaining things in the story
as
if you did not know it.
It's good. Yeah, they did.
Because there was even things that I forgot about, and I'm like, what are they talking about? And then somebody was like, what do you mean? I'm like, thank you. Because you just asked that. I'm asking that right now. I don't have to.
And in a way that didn't feel intrusive.
No, it did it really well.
Partially because some of them were like things that they were reteaching you because the character who was asking didn't know. So it made sense for them to ask.
I think that's why they did that in Dream Drop. Don't want to say too much. I'm not going to say too much. Yeah, but I think that there's something that happens in Dream Drop that makes it convenient for you as the player when you're playing Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yeah. So anyway, when all that stuff goes on,
something I actually completely ironically forgot about.
When you think about all that stuff, it's really hard to imagine in your mind that the people who are playing Kingdom Hearts 3 of this first 5 million, technically the second game didn't even sell 5 million.
Okay, I'm going to give everybody homework. I want you to go find a Let's Play person, somebody with a face cam, and that is narrating their playthrough of the game, who have never played a Kingdom Hearts game, and they decided to pick Kingdom Hearts 3.
I wonder if Angry Joe did it. Because he had apparently never played the series and was going to play and review Kingdom Hearts 3.
That's right. He was the one that people didn't want reviewing the game.
They were trying to backlash him. That was a very toxic side of the Kingdom Hearts fan base who were, and I get the worry, right? And I hate using the word toxic, but that is pretty bad when you're yelling and cussing at a guy for saying he's going to play a game. It's like, this is what the guy does. He plays games, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean, it makes sense if he can't play every game they ever made. But I will say that I do agree with what people say that about the reviews in some sense of the word, or in some sense of the statement.
So anyway, look, all I'm gonna say is, Corey, I know you're listening to this. I was a little bit wrong, and you're swinging more towards the right side at that point. And I actually think this game does stand the possibility to outsell 15. My thing about why I thought 15 would still be the victor at that point was because, as far as I was concerned, 15 acts as a standalone story, even if it doesn't do it. Well, I say that. It really doesn't, because it also requires an anime and some DLC and a movie, but more than anything, it's still a more palatable story than all of Kingdom Hearts 3. But my worry was also that Kingdom Hearts 3 was having to tie up a lot of loose plot threads, and I was worried that they were going to try and do that in a way that made sense to people who have played the series for a long time but didn't for other players. And I feel like they did a great job, like Saul said, of doing it in a way that explained for new people while also being respectful to people who played the series for a long time. So, good on them.
Fantastic job. Square and Nomura.
Look, congratulations, Square, Nomura, the team. Great. I'm glad to see it. Really, I'm glad to see it. As a huge Kingdom Hearts fan, everybody likes to see things that they enjoy doing well.
You like to see it come to a good close.
Yeah. I think it was a great close, really.
I was going to say, great close, but never mind. I'm trying not to hard to say like
Yeah.
stuff.
I know. Couple things left. Red Dead Redemption 2 was announced to have sold 23 million copies since launch. That is staggering. Really. But also, I expected a little bit. Like, it's a number that's so massive that when you see it, you're like, no. But then you think about the game, it's like, okay, yeah. You know, you're following the best-selling game ever, essentially.
Well, and people
With
are talking
Grand Theft
about
Auto
that
5.
this will never be touched. I guarantee this will be touched by Grand Theft Auto 6.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, to be fair, right now, this game is... Did it say whether it's outperforming 5 at the same point in its life cycle?
I don't know. That's a good point.
Because that's going to be the thing, is technically this game might just be touching
Didn't
Grand Theft Auto
5 sell
5.
over 1 billion copies?
No, I mean, it's something ridiculous. It's not... I don't think it's 1 billion. I think it sold over 100 million copies or 150. I can't remember. It's some ridiculous thing. I know it's the best-selling game ever at this point. So that's a pretty interesting thing to see. Last thing on the list, though, then we'll move along.
Oh, yeah, 1 billion. I just never realized what B.
I like, dude, 1 billion's crazy. But
90 million.
90 million. Okay, so I thought it got close to 100 million. There
And
you go.
that's from April of last year, so it's
Probably broke that
up
by
10
now.
more.
Yeah. Okay, so the last thing on this, though, is Assassin's Creed 3 Remastered comes March 29th and includes all DLC as well as Assassin's Creed 3 Liberation. That was the Vita title that they did. They ended up coming to PS3 and Xbox 360 as well in 2014. So you get that as well mixed into that. The remaster runs in 4K and has HDR support for the mid-gen refresh console. So you have a PS4 Pro or Xbox One X, you can see that in 4K, and HDR supported it at least on the PS4 all models. But the game is free for season pass holders for Assassin's Creed Odyssey, but will be available separately, though no price currently is known. Though I'm imagining somewhere in the $30 range, very similar to what we got with Far Cry Classic.
Yeah.
But I don't know how much they ended up charging for Assassin's Creed. I can't remember the name of the game, and I know it.
The PS Vita one?
No.
Freedom Call.
No, it's... Oh, Lord. Come on. It was the one that came out at the same year as Rogue. It was the same. It came out the same year as...
Black Flag.
Not Black Flag. It came out the same year as the one that ran like poop, Unity. For a lot of people, Unity was PS4, Xbox One exclusive, and in the same year they had PS3, Xbox 360 exclusive Rogue. It's very odd that they chose to do it that way. They double dipped into Assassin's Creed, but I think Rogue. That's what I was trying to figure out. Where did Rogue end up when it was initially priced? How much was it?
40, right?
30.
30.
Yeah. So I think that makes sense that this game would come back out at 30. You know.
See, I've lost so much on those series.
Oh, dude, me too.
Ridiculous.
I played Revelations. I played Liberation for Vita, more to support the Vita, but it did actually have a lot of ideas.
Well, you've been
in the
playing
game
Odyssey too, technically.
Yeah, but I mean, Origins and Odyssey are two. They're not the original series.
I know, but that's what I was
play-wise.
gonna say. Is that's how different this series is now. It's like you don't even really like when you hear Assassin's Creed, you don't even think of the older series anymore.
No,
you think of the new ones.
Or I don't, but I wasn't a long time
either.
fan, so I think that makes sense. But that's the last thing up on the list. Saw anything? Any thoughts on any of that though you didn't get out?
Nope. Not for me. I just want to talk about Kingdom Hearts 3.
So, are you so sick that you think you're going to have a lot of confusing statements this time around? Like Mark,
I don't think I should.
Like Mark Cerny being the president of SI.
I don't know where that came from. Okay. I get those. I get him and Andrew House confused sometimes.
That one's reasonable.
Yeah.
I don't get that problem, but it's closer.
Yeah, I get those two confused every now and then.
But Andrew House also is gone from the company now.
Right.
So.
He left last year, didn't he?
Yeah.
Or no, he left 2017.
Oh yeah, you're right.
So
because I think his last PSX was 2017.
Yeah. So
the last thing was that.
That should tell you guys how bad I felt last week and how day quilled up I was. Like I say that I only had
okay, Saul.
two day quilled tablets.
We're poking and prodding at you. But anyway, because of the fact that this is happening kind of early and we're recording this episode early, we didn't know what topic we wanted to cover for sure. But I was looking through, and I saw this actually after we recorded last week, and I thought it was an interesting thing. And I asked Saul if he thought it would be fun to talk about, and he thought so. So I'm curious as to where we stand on both of this, because I think Saul and I, we know that we stand on different levels of physical versus digital.
Yeah,
so you think that would
opposites.
mean that Saul, as a digital fan, would be more embracing the side of technology that's going to go more and more away from a physical disc, which would mean that it would be reasonable, Saul, and I'm not saying you do, but do you think it's reasonable for somebody to assume that if you like the idea of all digital, that you'd also be more willing to accept the idea of moving away from a physical console at all and just going towards streaming?
I think it's two things, really.
I mean, I do too, but that's what I'm saying. I think that if you're more okay with digital all, that you are at least in the mindset that would be quicker to accept moving away from an actual physical station of a console.
Well,
but I'm not saying
if it was a flawless system, then yeah. Like if it was something,
if it was flawless, everybody would be okay with it. Realistically,
I mean, yeah. When you think about it, you don't have to leave your house to go get a game, which you technically already have to do. But
I'm not going to say everybody, because what about people who can't afford internet? Those are going to be the people who are like, well, at least if I have the box, otherwise.
In the dystopian future in which there's no data caps with unlimited internet with 10
Wi-Fi
million,
in the trees,
megabits down, you can play these games. Obviously, I would be all for it. But with the current way the internet is regulated and the internet service providers around here, it's not viable.
Yeah.
There was this, I brought it up before in the podcast. There was a Linus Tech Tips video. And there was a company, and I can't think of what they're called now, but they have this, it's a PC, but it's a really small PC. And they have it to where they basically said that if you always been within like 1,000 miles or something of the data center, because they have so many data centers around.
Yeah.
And then if you hardwire it with an Ethernet cable instead of Wi-Fi, you're guaranteed less than a millisecond of response time for delays. And if it was something like that, then absolutely I'd be for it. But nothing.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that now. Yeah, the streaming thing that was. Yeah,
it's basically a stream box, and it's the way it works is actually kind of cool because you don't buy this, and the way that it specs out is like a 16 gigabyte or 32 gigabyte system with like a 1080 Ti, 11 gigabytes VRAM, and the way it works out is it's like
so that sounds like, from what you're saying, is it has a graphics card in it, a graphics processor.
No. I'm saying like you're streaming from a computer that has those
things.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got you. That makes more sense.
I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find this video to reference it so people can go watch it, because I highly recommend checking it out because it shows you what could very well be a thing.
Well, we know it's Linus Tech Tips and we know it's a stream box, so maybe search those and see if you can find it if it's interesting to you.
But I will say that like if it was something like that, I'd be all for it. I wouldn't even have to worry about it. However, I don't think it's going to be like that next gen. And I think Sony is smart with going the route of not worrying about cloud.
So we haven't moved into that yet, but that was just my opening into, I think it'd be interesting.
I'm just going to go all the way.
So now we're going to go. So essentially what is kind of spurring this conversation is that Sony's CFO has recently talked about the fact that as far as Sony, and he is, thinking that consoles won't be overtaken by cloud streaming anytime soon. And now, I find it odd that this is even a sentence. I think this goes to show where me and Saul stand on this to an interesting extent. I find it odd that this sentence even needs to be said.
It is
because who in their right mind honestly thinks that cloud streaming is going to be at a point to where it's so great that it literally outnumbers the amount of people who are going to want or have to, for some reason, get a physical physical box that does all this processing locally, for a number of reasons. You have enthusiasts, right? Enthusiasts like me and Saul, to an extent. I think Saul's argument and this is tying back into digital again, but I think one of the things I can understand about Saul and anybody who wants to do all digital in this generation, for sure, is that there literally is no difference to playing the game from a disc or from the thing, because either way, from a download, because either way, you're playing the exact same setup. And even when you put the disc in, you're not playing from the disc. It just installs the game to your hard drive, and that's all you're doing. Right. So you're not even playing one from a disc and one from a hard drive. And even then, you could argue that the hard drive, if you have a higher speed, will run higher.
An SSD.
But now that all games install to your hard drive, any game, be it physical or digital, on an SSD will run better. So it doesn't really matter.
Loading screens and stuff like that are typically quicker and similar to that. It's a more enjoyable experience.
Because you're never running the game off the disc anymore. No. So the disc is just there to be a DRM check, and that's it. Now, outside of that, that's a lot different than moving towards something that actually has a loss aspect to it like streaming does.
Right.
So you're playing a game that literally is no different than if you put the disc in anyway. It doesn't change anything. So going all digital, at least in the moment-to-moment of playing, we're not talking about in the longevity of whether you keep those licenses long enough or not, or whether the service persists that lets you have those licenses. But more than anything, cloud streaming moves into a thing where even if they can get to a point where you're dealing with a low latency response time, where you're actually getting a pretty great response time, still doesn't change the fact that you're going to get streaming artifacts. You're going to have the occasional buffer that's going to hurt your quality. You may have some frame drops due to server overwhelming.
Data centers might go down.
Yeah, there's a number of things that hurt that, and we're not far enough in it right now that I feel like it's such a weird statement that you even have to say that in the next 5 years you can't see consoles being overtaken by streaming.
Yeah, I think it's reliant too on, like, when you think about it, some countries, I was reading a post on the PS4 subreddit, like, I think it was 2 months ago, about people going digital versus physical, and this is kind of off related, but somebody was living in India and they just now got like good internet. And it's just like, it's one of those things that's like, it could work out really well for the United States in some areas, most areas, but it won't work out well in other countries. Yeah. And when you think about it like that at that level, it's the same as digital versus physical. Where you could stream fine in the United States, you could download fine in the United States for most areas, and then there's countries that can't do streaming at all. So then you have this useless feature that's incorporated on your machine, and this is kind of like why, honestly, with what Xbox is doing, it's smart to go this route. But if you're gonna do this, Streambox would be the perfect way to do it, because it's something you could avoid if you don't need it.
Now, are you saying a separate box that's all that? So, like, you have the main console, which is the mainstay for enthusiasts and people who don't have good internet,
right? And I would assume that they're still up to some streaming on that console. I would, like, unless there's just none.
I mean, the option would be there. Why wouldn't it?
Right, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
because the hardware can go ahead and run it.
Or you could just get the console itself if you're only interested in streaming, and then just.
You mean the Streambox, right?
Yeah, they're a Streambox. I don't know what it's called.
Right now, that is exactly what Microsoft is allegedly working on from everything we've seen. Their idea moving forward, which makes sense. So if you don't know, Microsoft is working on a streaming solution that will let you stream Xbox One games to a phone, and that you can connect a controller to. And
has this been confirmed?
What?
That Xbox is working on the streaming solution.
Yes. Okay. They've already shown off it running on Forza on a phone.
Have they confirmed about the Xbox itself, or is that still heavily rumored?
I don't know that it's been confirmed, but it's been reported.
Gotcha.
Not even rumored. Essentially people who are behind the scenes are like, oh, well, we don't know much else about it, but there's going to be a Streambox. But I think that logically it follows through that if you're working on a stream solution that would work on phones, you can also stand to make money from the hardware side by making a Streambox that comes with an Xbox controller that lets you play the game essentially as close to a console experience as you'd want. It goes to a TV instead of a phone, has a physical controller that's separate that can connect to the box without having to have a bracket like the phone one showed, where the phone is in a bracket above the controller. I think when you look at all those things, it would make the most logical sense for them to go ahead and then make a hardware box that would be able to stream to tie in with that service. Now, what I don't think would be smart, and obviously they're not doing, and that's why, again, I say this statement is so ridiculous to me, is that obviously nobody's saying that. I don't even think Xbox is really preparing for in the next 5 years for one to take over the other. I think what they're doing is they have a service that's going to make most sense for people who are going to be on phones and don't have time for consoles anyway, but can just pack away a controller, or even people who want to put down a game, go travel like me this weekend, right? I want to keep trying to work on Kingdom Hearts 3 in my downtime.
It would be
if I could just pack a controller in, slap my phone on there, and then start playing the game.
If you could reliably do something like that, like what Remote Play was trying to do, where as long as your PS4 is in sleep mode and is connected to your Wi-Fi, it would be amazing. And I wish we lived in a future that would actually work. Because streaming gaming, or stream games, in my opinion, is not going to be the facet. It's going to be one of the best accessories / the best perks.
It's complementary to the main experience, right? Which is a little weird because, like we say, we're relatively enthusiasts. You're a little less than me, I think, in the fact that you're not as quick to jump on the 4K HDR bandwagon as I was.
I'm still on 1080p and I'm fine.
But you still have a PS4 Pro, so obviously you kind of just playing this game of you're still acting as an enthusiast, but not necessarily top tier enthusiast, which even technically I'm not. I just got an OLED. There's people who have had them for years.
Well, it depends on what you mean by enthusiast and how people define enthusiast.
Essentially, what I mean by enthusiast is the same as movies, where you want, if you like movies and you want the best possible Blu-ray player, you want the highest quality of the thing you can get. So in this case, UHD Blu-ray with a 4K TV that gives you the best thing. So you're willing to spend $5,000 on a TV setup because
Excuse
you're an
me.
enthusiast.
Well,
so in gaming, when you're an enthusiast on a console level, because PC is
I was
a
gonna
whole other
say
ballgame.
technically I spent $1,400 to buy or to build a gaming PC.
So PC is a whole other ballgame, and even then, you're not even at enthusiast levels on PC, really.
Oh no, I am. I'm just there's higher tiers than me. There's $10,000 PCs.
Because me and you have
build.
very similarly priced PCs.
Speaking of PCs, to bring back this back up, what I was talking about earlier with the stream box that you could buy for PC is as a service called Shadow, and I did not actually pay attention to this as a whole, but you basically per month you pay $35, and you basically lease this box, but it is a full dedicated PC the size of like it's smaller than a PS4.
Okay.
And it has 12 gigs of DDR4 RAM, 256 gigabyte storage, which sounds like that's not a lot, but then when you guys are streaming everything.
Yeah.
This is a full Windows PC, by the way. This is not like a weird hybrid. And it has a NVIDIA GTX 1080. So for $35 a month, if you ever wanted to play...
See, that sounds like it's doing a weird mix, and this is going back into
it's a
stuff
cool
that not
mix,
everybody's
though,
gonna
when
get.
you think about
a weird
it.
mix of doing some local processing and some server-based processing.
I mean, I'm sure it does something. Like, you could go watch the Lightest Tech Tips because they do millisecond meter testing where they actually have a millisecond. I don't know what that tool is called, but a reaction meter, I guess. But they actually test out the milliseconds, and it's 1 millisecond, so it's pretty crazy, and they go on full there. If Sony could start opening up data centers around the United States and like places like Dallas, there's one close to us.
Yeah.
You'd have places in like San Francisco or anywhere. Like there's a million places in California.
You pretty much have to be like, let's just say Texas is pretty big. You'd want one like Dallas and Houston.
I would say, well, I was going to say, the way I would think about it is the way the data centers work is that the Dallas one should cover Houston, in my opinion. You'd want to go more north.
Well, yeah, but at that point, you're dealing with how many people are on that one data center, and Texas is very dense.
I guess that is true. Texas is very,
so, like,
very
you
dense.
could say Arkansas could all probably be handled off of Little Rock or Fayetteville.
Yeah, it'd be perfectly fine. And then you can get like 3, I'd say, in Texas. But if they did something like that, and it was smart, where there was no millisecond or a very low latency where you wouldn't even recognize it as a thing, that is one of the perks and benefits. I would say, yeah, absolutely, I'm ready for it.
But that alone, you're still saying as a extra, right? Not as your only, but as something that you'd be willing to pay for as a bonus feature.
Yeah, because I'm not even down for PS Now, and you can now download select titles on PS Now, right? Mm-hmm. Or all PS4 titles, technically.
Yes, all PS4 titles. Or I say that. I'm fairly positive.
I'm pretty sure
all Sony ones for sure. I think the rest of it's probably publisher based, but I don't know why they wouldn't.
The titles on PS Now aren't worth the cost for PS Now is ridiculous. They need to lower that or make it cheaper for PS Plus members since they cycled out Vita and PS3. Mm-hmm. Still kind of irritated they're not really making up for that.
Well,
really
we don't know yet.
Anything
you know, we don't know how long it's going to be, but we'll see.
Well, technically it's in like 4 weeks.
If it's just the quality of the game going up, then it might be worth it, Because we did get 100 gigs of cloud storage. That's something.
That is a lot, actually.
Yeah, that's 10 times the amount of storage.
I would think, though, that with the way that service works is we'd get something a little extra, whether it's a new VR game
and we might,
like
and
discounts.
They're not ready to will it out yet.
Yeah. Well, we got 4 weeks, so I hope we see something. But yeah, I think that is an accessory / add-on. And when I say accessory, I mean an accessory to the console. I don't mean like a handheld accessory or anything like that. I think that is the smartest way to do cloud gaming, and I don't think it's ready to start doing that yet. Because it's almost like VR, where you have to capture VR in the proper time and technology to be able to utilize it and build upon it, because it'll be seen as a gimmick otherwise. Yeah. And that's kind of what streaming is.
And that already is happening right now. I mean, VR is honestly more palatable as an actual market than it's ever been, but there's still those people that consider it to be gimmicky.
I don't consider it to be gimmicky, but I consider it to be one of the most niche genres of gaming.
That is a very reasonable stance on that, as far as I'm concerned, because I don't think it's fair to call it a gimmick. And even though I get why some people think so, one of Corey's arguments in terms of your question last week that you asked, would you prefer VR? If it came down to for some odd reason,
by the way,
yeah, good. But if it came down to for some odd reason only one or the other could go in, because obviously Sony, if they were being smart, and us as consumers, we would all want both. You know what I mean? But if it came down to Sony saying, well, you know what? We're either going to do VR or we're going to do backwards compatibility for some weird ultimatum reason. Which one would you prefer? One of Corey's main arguments is that he just considers the VR to be gimmicky. And I don't agree with that. But it seemed like his main reason behind it is that a lot of the games are not even full-on games. They're experiences. That was definitely more true towards the start of PSVR and VR in general. That's lessened over time. Right. And more full-on games do exist.
It's like I would say honestly, like if you are a fan of rhythm games, Beat Saber alone is worth buying a VR for.
Yeah. And even then, Beat Saber, honestly, is really kind of a proof of concept of what you can really do.
Yeah.
And that's why I was saying a lot of those experiences for VR, and I know we're kind of getting off the cloud thing, but it's just going back into the idea of a gimmick, and I'm with you. But a lot of those VR experiences are really developers who are indie developers, or they have, their the general rule is, well, we're going to see what we can do on this technology. This will be our first foray into this technology. We'll understand it, and we'll see how much of a market is there, so that we can see how viable it would be for us to bring a full-on experience to this market, and not spend a ton of money investing into something that may flop. And I think at that sense, then it makes sense to do that. But you're right. The same thing has to happen. You can't push it too hard until the technology's there.
It's almost like what Microsoft did with AR. We haven't seen anything about that.
And they were announcing that 2012.
Yeah. We've seen one thing about that recently, like where I think it was the table demonstration they did like 3 years ago. 3 years ago.
Yeah, with Minecraft.
Yeah. So when you think about it,
and we don't even know if that was real. That's the problem. We're seeing that through a video.
Yeah.
We don't know how real that was.
It could be. What was it that
could have been CGI?
I was gonna say, what was it that Peter Molyneux did that ended up being fake? Milo.
Oh, Milo on the Kinect. Yeah.
Yeah, that ended up being 100% scripted.
Yep.
Every single thing about that game was scripted. So, but yeah, I will say that like as far as streaming goes, I think that you'll see it within the next year in terms of internet regulation. And the way that we'll see how internet and streaming will work with data caps and the FCC and all this stuff that's transpiring as of like 2014 or 15 actually. But I think that we'll see here in the next year or so ramifications of that. And I think that you will be even more prepared to see the results of what it would be in gaming with that. So I think that right now it's
and you'll be able to talk more on it from a knowledgeable standpoint at that point.
I mean, well, it's not even knowledgeable. It's that my opinion-based way. Is that because now,
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Because right now we haven't experienced it. All we have is the thought process on paper.
You can experience it if you want it.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. You can experience PS Now right now.
Yeah, and it's
PS Now is essentially streamed gaming.
Yeah.
Now, it's not streamed gaming with the amount of response time that we're talking about. And that's what Microsoft is saying that they've cracked. Now, that doesn't mean that Sony's gotten a lot better. I do know from people who've played PS Now a decent bit that it's not near as bad as it was when the service first launched in 2013.
Do you know why, though? Realistically, why? Because I know Sony's improving their servers, but also internet around them are improving too.
Yeah, of course. I think if you kind of do that, it's both ways, and I think that the technology is being more refined. But moving into the PlayStation Now thing about this, what's interesting is that obviously we're in agreement about the fact that we're not ready for this to happen.
We're not ready for this to take over.
And that this is an obvious statement in my mind.
As an accessory or
so obvious that I'm surprised that it's a report, like that this is considered journalism at this point. You know what I mean?
Brett with the fire. What's going on here?
Well, no, I don't even mean for them. It's because realistically, it is journalism only because of the way that we are, for some reason, trying to view, partially because of the way Microsoft talks about streaming. We're trying to view streaming as this no way to stop it. It's coming and very, very soon. And I don't agree that it's at that level, and I don't see how anybody would. We don't even have the actual Microsoft product out. If Microsoft released it and said, we're very close to making it even better to the point where it's just going to be so crazy, then yeah, maybe you're a step closer. But right now, we're not there. We're just at a point where we're saying, oh, well, all we can do right now is show you what we have and then slowly iterate on that while we do a better job at working on it. But
what is that an image of?
I don't know.
Okay, Yoko Taro tweeted that out and it's on a Switch screen. So I was like, is that near one that I'm just like, that he's like, I'm playing this?
No, that's not near one.
Okay.
That'd be crazy, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, going into where I was talking about with PlayStation Now, essentially, my idea behind this...
Great translation, Microsoft.
is, I guess it's Twitter's translation, right? Stop being so distracted, Saul.
I'm not being distracted. I'm listening.
You're distracting me because I'm over here looking at you, trying to look my eyes in your eyes, trying to peer into the windows of your soul. Look, with PlayStation Now, what's interesting about this is that this all, like I said, seems to be stemming from Microsoft and what they're talking about on the side of where they're at from a streaming perspective. Now, the upside about this is that currently Microsoft has no streaming anything available, but Sony has had since 2013 a streaming service that they have been pulling and pushing on as the market gets more and more viable.
Right.
And they're finding ways to do it. Just like right now, they're dealing with making the service as a standalone, as a service as a whole, not necessarily streaming side, more competitive by letting you download the PS4 games, but also the fact that when you're dealing with the PS3 side, they've been slowly working on making that response time better and better and better.
If it got down to like 1 or 2 milliseconds at most,
sure.
I'd invest.
Essentially, what I keep thinking is that Sony is playing the smart game and saying that we're not really putting any real bets. We're not putting any horses into that ring or anything. We're not putting those shoes in the closet, but all they're essentially doing is playing this waiting game where they get to wait, see how well Microsoft's actually is working, A, B, how well the market receives it as an idea, and then how much Microsoft actually pushes it into their next gen plan.
Well, I think
from all three of those things, Sony can easily and clearly decide to push. You have no clue whether Sony's been doing a ton of R&D to make sure that their console would be ready to announce at the flip of a switch. We also have streaming that we've been working on, and bam, here we are. PS5 will have this ability to stream. You'll be able to do it with this and these devices.
And if done correctly, it's a strong feature.
Yeah,
but I just don't know if
I feel like they're not
by next generation.
They're not even talking about it in that way because they're waiting to see how viable it becomes when their competition does it. Right? Play the smart game. Why? I say play the smart game. There's a double side of this, right? Partially, first to market can normally do really well. Part of that you see, at least on the console side. As far as consoles go, and even partially from a release window, PSVR is the first VR on consoles, and they're doing incredibly great things. Not only obviously ruling as the only console VR, they're ruling the console VR market, but they're also ruling literally the entire VR market by a massive number.
Yeah.
So when you think about that, there are benefits to being first to market. So if Sony is playing this waiting game, it may be better if they've already got these plans to just push forward. But it goes into the idea, the thought process behind where Sony is and what PlayStation is as a feature and what their marketing message has been for console versus what Microsoft's been. Microsoft's message this whole time has been diversify, get off of one platform, have us on multiple, have us on an Xbox, have us on a Switch, on PC, have us on a phone now. And then from what they're talking about with this information about Switch getting more Xbox Live interplay, it sounds like Microsoft might even be doing what we've been saying, where they move completely away from being a traditional first-party console manufacturer where they have their console and their games. Now all their games are going to start to be this. Xbox is just a platform that also happens to have a hardware iteration in case you prefer their take on hardware.
If Halo,
very, very Google-like.
If Halo Infinite ever is playable on PS5, I will probably hug.
Who? Phil Spencer?
Phil Spencer. I was like, why? I'm trying to think of like Randy, and I'm like, no, not Randy.
Randy Pitchford.
No, definitely not him. But yeah,
I said that with a little bit of a Texas twang on purpose. So,
yeah, well, he's not doing too good nowadays, I don't think. But I would hug Phil Spencer so hard. Be like, look, dude, you made my dream come true. I could play. The reason I bought an Xbox, original Xbox, and the reason why I sold my PS2, now I can play it on that system, so it all works out really well.
Yeah. See, and that's what's funny, right? Is that from everything that we were able to see, of the two, Sony is trying to remain a platform holder where not only do they control, they're a all-around. We control hardware, software, and everything, and we're a controlled experience.
Right.
We may give a little bit on that as we're letting PC players play some PlayStation games, but this is a small dip in the market, and we're waiting. The games, Microsoft is pushing for day one Sea of Thieves to be available on PC and Xbox. Whereas Sony's saying, well, we'll add The Last of Us because everybody's played it now anyway to PC on PlayStation Now. So if you want to play it and you just haven't, now you have it. But they're waiting. They're putting time between that.
The only thing I could see as being a potential problem with this partnership between Microsoft and Nintendo and phones and stuff, and maybe even potentially coming to PlayStation in some form,
sure,
is that they're effectively going to take themselves out of the market as one of the big three because they're going to be more of a
hardware competitor.
Yeah. What if Sony ever missteps?
There's less of a counter force to want to correct them,
right? Which is what I'm worried about.
Yeah,
is that
I get
there
what
is
you're
no
saying.
competition there. So if they misstep, what are you going to say? Like, I'm going to go to Switch because that's a totally different market. So, like, you can't go, like, you could technically go to Xbox, but, like, what are you going to do there?
Microsoft has been the Sega.
Yeah.
Literally. They play
becoming.
the same role.
I wouldn't say has been, but it's becoming.
Well, I don't mean that in the sense of that sounds bad. Sega in their prime is what Microsoft is acting as for the PlayStation as a whole, right? When you think about it this way, Nintendo was first to market. Sega came out later in the market, more powerful, bragged about their power, and then eventually ended up doing really well until they eventually ended up falling back to succumbing again. You know what I mean?
Original Xbox launched before PS2, didn't it?
No, the original the Xbox launched a year after PS2 and was more powerful.
That's right, and then the PS3 launched a year after the 360 did.
Yes.
Gotcha. That's what I got mixed up.
So when you think about it in that sense, yeah, Microsoft is acting the role of what Sega did to Nintendo early on, which was, we're coming out. Now, they've lasted far longer. But their role has been very similar. Sega came out and said, well, hey, we're more powerful than Nintendo. We're a very different idea, but we're also have a lot of the same games and a lot of the same ideas, but we're just marketing in a different way, and we're focusing more on power, whereas Nintendo started kind of playing a different route and being like, well, you know what, we can't say that we're the most powerful anymore because Sega was quickly iterating.
Right.
Anyway, that happened, right? And then eventually Sega kind of stepped on Nintendo for a little bit before Nintendo ended up coming over and just rolling over them again anyway, while Sega continued to step on their own toes. We saw a similar thing happen this time around. PlayStation came out first in this setup. Microsoft came out a little bit later and said, hey, we have a console. The first one didn't really do, just like Sega, the first one didn't really act as strong competition, but the second iteration did.
Yeah.
And then what happened with the third iteration, very similar to what happened with Sega, they started stepping on their own feet. And we're seeing that same thing happen, but the upside is that Nintendo always had Sega at first as that counterbalance against them. Then when PlayStation came into the fold and there was three, but then quickly Sega faded out. Then it was Sega and Nintendo.
Yeah.
And then very quickly Sega, Nintendo, and Microsoft. And then Nintendo kind of folded off into their own market.
Sony, Nintendo, and Microsoft.
Yeah, sorry, but Sony.
Like, what?
Yeah, but Sega obviously gone. Nintendo, once it started trying to compete with the GameCube, but just realized it wasn't able to compete in the same way, they started embracing their weird side and became their own market, which is actually smart because there's no competition in that market.
It's not, and
that's why it's funny that the Wii U failed, because it's literally your only competition was realistically yourself.
Yeah,
and your 3DS was outdoing your Wii U.
I think the Wii U was too far ahead of its time.
Yeah, okay,
like a hybrid console that's technically all in your hands.
I don't think maybe. Very similar to the way people look back on the Dreamcast.
Well, like Sony came out next year with a PS5 accessory that is essentially a DualShock 4 with a major screen in the middle.
Yeah,
but it plays a second screen, and then it's not like a Switch, but it's a supplemental second screen. But then you can switch it if you need to handheld mode and then go to the bathroom. That'd be amazing. You can't deny the fact that Wii U was cool hardware.
I mean, we already essentially saw that, right? I mean, that was what the Vita was. They could have done that with the PS4. They just didn't.
It's not
they chose to do it with the Vita.
Seamless with the Vita, though. The Vita is its own separate system. I'm talking about more so of a controller.
Which even then, I'd prefer a separate system. But yeah, I think that's the interesting side about this. Like I'm saying, Sony is trying to remain a all-inclusive business, and the worry there, like you say, is that if Microsoft removes themselves from the hardware business, who plays as the counterbalance?
Right.
I don't know, because like we say, what is Google entering the market?
I hope not.
Is anybody else entering the market? You know, I mean,
Apple. There's rumors about Apple.
Is Epic entering the market? Is that the whole point of making this Epic game store? Are they going to eventually move? Steam tried to do a Steam box, but it just didn't work.
Failed terribly.
Didn't work at all.
Powered by Alienware. And I don't mean that like...
Well, there were multiples, but Alienware was the notable one.
Notable one, yeah. It was like $600.
I don't remember the price, but it was not...
It was $600 for a mid-range PC that was the size of...
That you could have built for yourself for $350.
Yeah, it was probably the size of an Xbox One if you cut it in half. An Xbox One S, I'm sorry. If you cut it in half, it was pretty small, but it wasn't worth it. But anyways, for the sake of brevity, let's end this because we've been kind of talking in circles for a little while with Sega.
Yeah, sure.
But I think we got the point across. Do you guys want to see streaming in terms of cloud gaming? Do you want to see that become a thing for PS5? Since it doesn't look like we may be getting it, what are your thoughts on that? And what do you think about the future going forward with streaming and gaming from the cloud? So let us know in the comments below, our Twitter, our Discord, and of course, on our Facebook group, Triangle Squared, a PlayStation podcast. What?
Hold on, I got it. Okay, you're good. We can end.
Okay, he had to pull up his Patreon thing. If he wouldn't have said anything, I would have kept going and it would have been more fluid. But we thank you all for joining.
I forgot to add him on the background screen. It'll be fine. I'm still going to do this. I'm going to, as soon as we get done recording, I'm going to edit that picture to show those names. But I'm going to at least say them out loud.
Y'all listen to the beautiful voice of Brett with Patreon, and thank you all for being Patreon subscribers. So I'll let Brett take that away. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you, guys. Thanks to our patrons, Chad V, Dan Barber, Josh Jarrell, Mikey 12, My Name is Dan, Douglas Below, Sean Santarud, Shadowist, Steven Salazar, The Stonard, Travis Below, Blake Popst, Eduardo Palomino, Stefan Swanland, and Eric McAllister. Thank you all so much for your support of us and the show. It means a lot to us. If you would like to support this show and you find value in it, go to our Patreon. It is patreon.com/Nartech, and consider supporting us. We love you all. Thank you so much.
Dude, I love McAllister's.